Hello classy people, this is Josh the Top Hat Gamer, and this week I'm reviewing Assassin's Creed Chronicles India. The last AC Chronicles game was by no means a bad game, but there were a few areas like its forgettable story and occasionally bland visuals where it could certainly improve. Let's find out how the next entry in the Chronicles series fares. Assassin's Creed Chronicles India takes place 300 years after the previous game and puts players in control of Arbaz Mir, an assassin waging war against the Templars while the Sikh Empire wages war with the East India Company. When a Master Templar arrives bearing an item that once belonged to the assassins, Arbaz must do all he can to retrieve the item and protect his brotherhood at the same time. The Chronicles games so far just haven't captivated me on a narrative level yet. Maybe it's because we've seen Arbaz's smooth, quick-witted character traits in many other Assassin's Creed heroes before. Maybe it's because the games aren't long enough for the main characters to experience any real development. Either way, while the story allows for some memorable moments, the plot just isn't overly interesting. Unlike the narrative, the game's visuals are very interesting, replacing China's muted ink-splashed storyboards with more vibrant colours and intricate floral designs. Even attacking and killing enemies has a more colourful flair to it, as Arbaz's sword swings and other kill animations are followed by a trail of delicate, vibrantly coloured patterns. The levels as a whole are far more visually appealing as well, thanks to the inclusion of impossibly bright, multicoloured trees and ornate structural designs. With that said, however, all the bright colours dotting the screen at any given time can distract from the red interactive items, which can occasionally lead to an embarrassing death or two. In the audio department, things fare a little bit better than last time. The soundtrack once again fits its setting like a glove, but fails to produce anything very memorable. Unlike last time, the voice acting follows suit, and while you won't hear anyone speaking Hindi, the English dialogue is delivered with a subtle accent that, fortunately, stays away from caricature territory. I'm still not sure why these non-white, non-British characters are being portrayed by white voice actors though. Seems like a no-brainer. Assassin's Creed Chronicles India follows the same principle as its predecessor. Take the action platforming gameplay of the main series games and translate it to a 2D format. Of all the aspects that Chronicles tries to replicate, the platforming comes off the best by far. Running, jumping, climbing, and sliding to reach your goal feels fast and satisfying, and certain maneuvers such as the sliding or jumping assassinations feel more responsive and easier to pull off without halting your momentum. Once again, these mechanics are at their finest in the time-based platforming challenges where speed is key. The stealth gameplay makes a return as well, but it feels at least a little more challenging than the previous game. You still have to navigate multi-layered levels while avoiding the vision cones of your enemies, and while this isn't the most complex thing in the world, new enemy types such as the super-focused Highlanders or the assassin-like Masters will keep you on your toes. As with China, you have plenty of gadgets at your disposal to either distract guards or cover your escape, and none of these are too overpowered, but a well-placed gadget at the perfect moment still feels very satisfying. Finally, the game's combat is still clunky and not really advisable. You'll find yourself outnumbered in almost every fight, and unless you have the special Helix combat ability triggered, then you're going to be occupied for a while. You can still only engage 2 enemies at a time, but now that there are more firearms than in the previous game, your enemies have more chance to shoot you while you're dealing with someone else. It has the potential to be fun like the super old Prince of Persia games, but just comes off as slow and frustrating. Besides, there's still little to no incentive for actually taking enemies head on, so what exactly is the point? To its credit, the game doesn't bog you down with tutorial after tutorial and you begin with most of your equipment from the outset. There are still new mechanics to wrap your head around, such as traps, weak structures, and new enemies, and these do a decent job of keeping the gameplay somewhat compelling. As for content, the game provides challenge modes as well as secondary objectives to complete during the story, though I always found that pursuing these objectives felt like it was breaking the flow of the game. AC Chronicles India picks up China's slack in more than a couple of places, but still manages to drop the ball in a few other areas as well. Direct combat is still pretty clunky, and the story fails to gain any traction, though the new visual style, as well as the minor tweaks to platforming and stealth, keep the Chronicles series feeling worthwhile, at least until the series wrap up with Russia. Assassin's Creed Chronicles India gets the Top Hat Gamer rating of good. The fresh setting makes me crave a new main series Assassin's Creed game set in India, but for the moment this will have to do. The game exceeds with its fast and satisfying platforming, and though it stumbles here and there, it's mostly entertaining for its short playtime. I'd highly recommend die-hard fans of the series to pick this up, as well as those looking for a solid 2D platforming experience. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the review informative. If you missed my wrap-up of the best games of 2015, click the annotation. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go run away from elephants again.